Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blank Gates. I just want to do a quick sound check. Okay, good. We got it. All right. Now, as you may or may not know, I've been working on this little project for a little while. And yeah, so I just found there's this new wonderful world of Firebase Studio. Now, the thing is that I was thinking about using AppSheet. So, as you know, I didn't make a video for like basically the last week. I was kind of feeling like I was stuck in um, Cursor. What was happening, like what I thought was supposed to be happening, wasn't really happening. What I wanted to happen wasn't happening. It was starting to get a little bit confusing. And then I ran out of the credits. So I spent all 500 credits. Now, I thought like I could just like pay another 20 bucks and get 500 more credits, but that's not how their system works. They have some other system, and I just didn't want to deal with the other system. Like at some point, it just became overload. Of course, if you know how it works, you've tried it before, you've done it, you get used to it, then things are fine. But the thing is that like when you have too many things that are new, then it's really hard to deal with all of that new. And I think, I've been working on this project for a while. I started with windsurf. I tested some things out, and then it just kind of I got to the point where there was too much that was new. Then I started over again with cursor, and then we developed it to the point where I think we almost have basically everything set up, but I was just having a hard time like seeing the visual side. Like, where is the visuals? Why can't I see the actual software that I'm making? And also, it's running on my local computer, and it wanted to install all this stuff. And at some point, when it wants to install all this stuff, and I don't know what it means, and then how to connect everything, at some point you realize, oh, okay, so this is like for people who know what they're doing. And if there's a problem, then it's going to be too much for me. So eventually, I just put a little pause. There's, I guess there used to be a string in here. Maybe not. Just put a little pause, and I decided to test out this thing called App Sheets. As you can see, it says April 11th, which is today. Anyways, I couldn't do anything with this App Sheets. Like I started looking at it, and I don't know. I was like trying to add a button to the page. I couldn't add a button to the page. You can like basically if you want to add a project, it immediately turns into having to add an assignee, a status, and an end date. So I just felt like this is not what I want. And then I tried to figure out how do I add a new button or how do I add things to the screen. I felt like this thing was very limited. And then suddenly I saw this YouTube video today. It just popped up on my screen and said, "Hey, why don't you come over to Firebase?" So Firebase. So for me, when I'm looking at this, I feel fine because I've been working with Cursor for so long. Um, Suddenly I realized, oh, okay, well, this is like similar to Cursor. I don't have a problem with this. The only problem is going to be you can't actually see what I'm typing. So my head is actually covering this section over here. How about that? Okay, I can move it down a little bit. Gemini can make mistakes. Now you see how it's like Gemini 2.5 experimental. So what I did was I clicked this one and it didn't work. So then it said, well, you should plug in your API keys. So then I just clicked settings and then I went into settings, or I suppose you could just click this one, Gemini API keys. And I plugged in my API keys. Now the thing is that, so the API keys are actually here in Google AI Studio. I jumped into Google AI Studio. I clicked this one, get API keys, or no, I click to create API keys, and then you can see it down here. So here's the project, here's the API key, and then I don't know what this is for setting up billing or usage. So I'm a little bit confused. I'm almost to the point where I might be leaving ChatGPT. I've used ChatGPT for a million years since the beginning, and I think we're now at the point where it's it's not doing things that I want it to do. It's like it's not remembering the past. It's confusing things. It's like it has this context window. I guess it might not be as big as I don't know. I just feel like it's not performing like it used to. I feel like I had it. There was a moment where everything just seemed like wow. It's like it knows everything. It's like it's really understanding my project and it remembers everything that we say and it's like keeping on track of everything. And then suddenly I stopped using it for a couple of days and it just all of a sudden couldn't remember, it couldn't review the stuff above it. You can't look into other conversations. I don't know, I lost faith. And now that Gemini is here, it's got remember when it was barred? Barred it. Anyways, now so I asked ChatGPT about this. No, I asked Gemini about this. I said, "Hey, like how much do I have? How long can I use this?" That's the big question. Okay, so this is free. I'm not paying for Cursor. Okay, so this is the question, right? So before I'm paying 20 bucks for Cursor and I'm paying 20 bucks for ChatGPT. So that's 40 bucks. But now Google, so Firebase Studio is like I could pay for well, I can't plug in ChatGPT into this. Or I guess you could use custom model ID. I don't know. Custom model advanced. The Gemini model to use Gemini IP model provider for inactive chat. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's allowing me to connect with ChatGPT. That's my assumption right now. So let's play on that assumption that you have to use Gemini. Anyways, what's the problem with that? Like, I don't have a problem as long as Gemini is able to perform at the same level as ChatGPT. Then I could use Gemini rather than ChatGPT. And if I'm not paying for a Cursor, then I'm saving 20 bucks. Pay 20 bucks or pay 40 bucks for basically the same thing. And then Firebase Studio, it's going to be obviously it's just going to have more and more features. For example, Google, it already has connections to a database. It can be connected to Excel's, or it's called Google Sheets. It could be connected to all kinds of things. So Google has like all of the infrastructure in the background to run countless numbers of things. And when I was using Cursor, as you can see in the past, however many videos that I've been doing, I'm like piecemealing things together. I'm trying to figure out how everything connects. And as I start to connect things, I'm starting to have problems. Like Superbase right now, remember I created all that database structure and everything, and then now I'm getting messages from Superbase all day long, like, "Oh, your database is inactive. Oh, we're putting a pause," and it's like so annoying because it doesn't ask me questions like, "Hey, what are you working on? How can we provide support for you as you are working on whatever you're working on?" It just says your database isn't active, so we're gonna put a pause on that. And then I unpaused it. 2 days later, it's like, no, we're still gonna pause it. It's like, what's going on? Like, why am I getting all this trouble? And I haven't even started doing like other things, like how do I set up billing and how do I set up all kinds of different things. So here we are again at the beginning of the show. We're starting over again. So I said I created like a project. I don't know where you even see the projects. Edit, save workspace as. Are we going to be saving this on my local device or are we saving it in the cloud? I think it's saving it in the cloud. I think everything here is happening in the cloud. I'm sure we have a whole series of extensions. I think these extensions are connected to VS Code. Anyways, what are we gonna do? I don't know. So now what's the next issue? The next issue is I was trying to get that cursor to do everything all at the same time. And I was trying to create the whole database and I was trying to create everything. I think this time what we're going to do is we're going to start with a much smaller task. How small? I just want it to be this big. Not even this big. It's even smaller. Here. All right. I want to see if I can just create like a button. You click the button. All right. So what we can do is I'm going to take this image because I have an image of the main menu. I'm going to duplicate that image. I'm going to resize that image to only include the top. Well, I guess we want to connect with the profile as well, right? Okay. Let's jump into Arrowhead. All right, so I wanted to create an application, a web-based project management application. I have screenshots of a wireframe. I have a good understanding of the database. I want to develop the software in phases. The first phase is the profile page and the main menu page. What do we do to create those two pages? All right, we got the stop, we got the upload that. I don't know what this bash is. Okay, let's start building the first phase of your project management. To begin, we need to place the front end code. I'll create a front end directory and set up basic placeholder files for React components. Now, the question is, can I just let it do its thing without having to, you see how it's like makes me add styles? Because I don't have to click and click and click and click. All right, sometimes what happens with this is review changes. I've created the basic structure for your profile page and main menu page with components. This includes placeholders. We should initialize React project using create React app within the front end. So would you like me to run the command? Yes. Oh no, did I just do something? Oh boy. All right, question is what is this going to do? Is this connected to my terminal? Do I actually have to click yes in here? It seems okay. Oh boy. Well, this definitely makes me have to pay more attention if I have to click yes on every single thing that it does. All right, so this is the thing. Okay, so I need to install the following packages: create React app. Okay to proceed. Now, in the cursor, why is there a cross through this main menu page and profile page? There's my Gemini API key. So nothing's happening. If I click yes, remove the existing. Yeah, so this is the issue that I'm wondering is like, is this creating something on my local computer? My assumption is that it is. Well, anyways, gives us a time to go through this stuff again. All right, so we got file. Nothing happens when you go to save as. This is host web app with Firebase. Deploy your app with deploy run cloud. Deploy your backend and web app front end to cloud run. Okay, the React project has been successfully created. I need to put back the profile page components we created. I'll enter them in there. Okay. Yeah, so we got web hosting. We're going to deploy things to the cloud. We got Gemini API. Like, this is everything you need, right? It's all in the same place. Web host your app. Deploy your backend and web app with front end with Cloud Run. So this is replacing Superbase. This is replacing whatever else it needs to be. Okay, I've created the profile page components. I see these pages, you need to import them in your main. Now to see these pages, you'll need to import them and use them in your main application file, which is likely front. Yes. All right, now what do I technically actually need? What's this thing happening? Changes. Source control changes. All right, so in the other one, in Cursor, this was kind of in the same area. So you could update, you could commit the changes. There's no staged changes to commit. Okay, I don't know what's going on. I've updated this now. It now imports and renders the main menu page component. To see the result, you can start the development by running this. In the front end, would you like me to run the command? Okay, let's do yes. Run the terminal command. All right, this is using my terminal. Now the thing that it's blocking the pop-up. Always allow pop-ups. Okay, let's not. I want to see the pop-ups. Mike, the thing I'm curious about is like when am I gonna be able to see the app? when am I gonna see something? Because with the other one, you had to create this Next.js app, and then it was like, it was like, where do I see what's happening? Where do I see the thing? And then I would say, okay, I see some errors. Then I would take a screenshot of the errors. So there was always some disconnect between the user interface that I was seeing in the local host and then the communicating. So what I found in Cursor was I wanted Cursor to communicate directly with Superbase, and I also wanted Cursor to communicate directly with the local host with my Next.js, my React app. And like I had to be the person who was like connecting all these things together. And I don't really understand Superbase and I don't understand Next.js. So for me to be able to do that, it was just kind of like, I don't know what's going on. And then I would just like talk to ChatGPT to try to figure out how this is all going to work. And at some point, like I was saying at the beginning, I just got frustrated with the amount of new and with the amount of things I just didn't understand and the number of errors I was getting. And it created so much code and it did so much testing. And there was always like, it was always making errors in the testing. And at some point, it's like, I just didn't have the faith to continue. I just felt like, I don't know, this like you wait a month in the world of AI and you're going to get something all new, something better. So if I can't get what I want after $20 and like 16 videos, 16 hours of coding, then it means that the AI has not caught up with my level. See that I remember I was talking to this guy from Iran a couple of years ago. He was living in Toronto and then he was planning on moving over to Vancouver. He was talking about like he was doing a master's degree and he was talking about like what did he want to do in the future? And he said I was always interested in software development, but now I mean I talked to this guy like 2 years ago, and he said now that ChatGPT is out, it's obvious that there's going to be some major developments in the development of code. So if we got this kind of development in code, at some point, well, it just renders like anything I could possibly learn in software in the next 2 years is going to be useless at some point, like within that 2 years. So why would I learn that? And I would say, like, what was the benefit of the last 2 years in my life? Because I've had some other prototypes that I've wanted to build. When I watch people on YouTube talk about, like, okay, so Magic Console, make me this video game, and then it'll explain like the video game. Like do a X and O game, do a snake game, do a whatever game. What I'm always seeing is people who they really have no idea. They don't have their own idea for what they want. They don't have an idea for what is their user experience going to be. They're just asking the software to copy stuff that other people have already created, which means the world is still about product management. See, it didn't really matter to a product manager. It doesn't really matter if you are doing the actual coding or somebody else is doing the coding. It doesn't matter if you are doing the designing or somebody else is doing the design. If you have a vision of what you want, you're using people as your hands. You're extending your abilities through your people in order to create the vision that you have. So, what's this that we see here? This is like I read a book. I tried to teach that book to 400 people. And in the process of teaching 400 people about the book, I was able to create this online course. After I finished creating this online course and teaching this online course to over 100 people, then I got the feeling like if you go back to Jordan Peterson's work about future authoring, You can watch his videos. He's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos. You can gain some benefit in your life from listening to the ideas that he talks about, and then comparing his world model to your world model, and then seeing how he compares his world model to other people's world models. And at some point you just keep comparing all these models, and then you come up with some basic idea of your understanding of life. And to some extent, what's more powerful than the actual ideas that he's presenting? So does it really matter that what we perceive in life is a story? It's just a narrative. Like, does that actually change who you are, or how you do things? I mean, what's his principle? His principal argument is like, follow the spirit that calls you to adventure. Now, how is this different from what we read in scripture? So, the Peterson world is a world where uh, you can't make that much money from starting a religion. And, all these religions, they have to make a claim, which is they have to make a claim that they are connecting directly to God. It means that they have to claim that the policies that they create are associated with revelation. And Peterson, he doesn't want to make that claim, probably because he has this book where he said you're supposed to speak the truth. And then, so we're assuming that God didn't talk to him because he's not making that claim. So he says, well, how do I participate in useful games? Where is the spirit of adventure calling me to go? So he has a bunch of endeavors. But his principal idea is follow the spirit of adventure. And if you read into the Holy Scriptures, you get the same feeling. It's the same idea. So you go and you pray and you ask God, what is it that you want me to do? And then if you hear nothing, then take a step. You just take your own step in faith. And then after you take a step in faith, then you see a little bit more. And then you say, okay, God, I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about this. If you care about what I'm doing, then, give me confidence to go in a certain direction. Sometimes you get that confidence. Sometimes your doubt disappears and then you take another step. So it's a constant experience where either you are telling God the things that you are hoping to achieve, and then you're asking for confirmation and confidence in a certain direction. And sometimes you're asking and saying, I don't really know where to go. And if you have some input, then I would be open to some recommendation. That's the basic concept of the day-to-day Christian life. Now, of course, there's some ceremonies and there's some meetings, there's some doctrine, there's some stories, there's all these things that are built around this experience, a relationship between you and the faith that you have in some higher power. The idea is that you're going to reach out to the life after death, where you will have a relationship with God personally, and you're bringing that into our current situation. It's something called hope. So it's all based on the concept called hope. Now, once you have hope, now if you don't have hope, maybe you don't have love, maybe you don't have charity. So it goes back to this idea of love. A lot of people, if they don't care about life after death, maybe it's because they don't love, or maybe it's because they don't hope. So you don't have to have a belief in the afterlife to have hope, because that's the whole concept of having hope. I wish, when you wish upon a star, I hope that there's some world that comes after this one where I can maintain the relationships of love which I've developed here. And then what happens is that gives you some motivation, and the motivation is the concept of faith. So you are doing certain actions, you're doing work because of that hope. And then as you start to do work, then you start your belief, the way you believe, your faith strengthens. And then the idea is that as your faith strengthens, at some point you start to actually pull down the power of heaven. You start to see things materialize in front of your eyes. So it's like a muscle. You're developing this ability to do the things which God wants you to do the things which you feel confident to do, and at the same time you start noticing things. You start noticing that God is making himself more manifest in your life. And then you start seeing that you are actually able to command the trees, command the mountains to be made level, and they listen to you. And okay, so but at what point are you able to actually command the mountains to become flat? Well, there's like a lot of levels, right? Developing in faith step by step. And until, like, the idea is that God himself, he works by faith. He's developed those muscles to the point where he can command and things move. So the whole universe around him is connected to him and through him because of this muscle that he's developed called faith. But when you bring it down to the simplicity of the here and the now, it's simply a relationship saying, God, I hope that you're there. Here's a couple of things I'd like to do. And if you care, then give me the confidence to be able to do that. Remove the doubt. And if it doesn't matter, then I'm going to do this. Or I'm not really sure what to do, and could you give me some advice? It's like that's it. That's the spirit of adventure. It's like moving forward. And what are you moving toward? So then you start to watch these videos, you start to develop some kind of idea, you start to see that he's going down the same type of reasoning, except that Jordan Peterson, he removes this tie. He's saying that from a psychological perspective, this is how humans have a conscience, and they have consciousness, and that those are also the mechanisms that work with consciousness and with your conscience, where you are asking yourself, you're meditating, you're thinking on the future, you're hoping for something. But you don't actually hear him say that God himself is revealing things to you. He's saying that it's inside of your mind. Now, if you put all that aside, there's something more powerful, which is he has a website which is called Future Authoring, and you go in and you go through a series of questions, and the act of going through the questions creates an outcome. So I taught these lessons. These are like his videos, when he's talking about his framework, the way he sees the world. This is the way I see the world. This is my framework. But what's more powerful than this? So you teach this to 100 students, and start noticing that people, they don't change all that much. But then if you do the future authoring program, you actually get a real change. So that's where I started looking at future authoring. But I wasn't completely satisfied with the future authoring for the type of experience that I'm trying to provide, because I want to provide a menu, meaning I want to provide the opportunity to talk about vision, to talk about objectives, to talk about touch base, to talk about brainstorm, to talk about choose. And then they have loops, right? So everyone talks about vision. It starts here. But then, like, once you have an objective, if you already have an objective, you don't need to go down here. And then if you go down here because you don't have an objective, and then through this talking process, you come up with an objective and you know what you want to do for the objective, then you don't need to go here. But if you come up with some ideas and then you're not sure which one to pursue, then you can go here. And then from here, you pick an objective. In either case, you're going to get yourself here. Now, once you get yourself here, then it's going to end up creating a scoreboard, which is basically a to-do list. Real simple to-do list. What is that? That's the spirit of adventure, right? It's like thinking about some objective that you want. The spirit of adventure is calling to you. The thing that you think that you need to do is right there in front of you. And then you go through some questions, and then you write down the tasks and who's going to do it and by when, and then you start to follow up on those tasks. So over here is the follow up. So every day you do this follow up until all the tasks are complete. Once they're all complete, you move on to the next objective. Once all the objectives in this project are complete, then you come back and you create a new project. So it's a future authoring program, but it's very focused on the actual mechanism of getting things done. So we've designed it. It's here. And now what? Running a command. All right. So where should I see this front end user facing interface? Oh my goodness. When you start the MPA, starts a development server, opens a tab in a web browser. Can I see the work here? Where's the web panel view? Under view. I don't see it. Oh boy, it's time to take the dog for a walk. So something's running on the port 3000, might be previous attempt to start the server. Maybe I should go close that one. Where's my next JS? Situation. There it is. Just close that. All right, so this is what it's showing. Main menu. All right. All right, so I could upload the image of the main menu so that we could talk about the features of the main menu. Okay, it doesn't seem to think it knows how to see things. Sometimes, hold on. Ooh. Sometimes, like, it actually can do things, but it just doesn't know it can do things. What the heck happened there? Image. All right, so do you see this image? Can you explain it to me? Aha! You exceeded your current quota. Please check your plan and billing details. There you go. So we reached the end of the line. All right, so the next step is I'm gonna pay for this Google Gemini, and which is gonna give me, hopefully it'll give me a bigger quota. Is it gonna give me 500 or is it gonna give me unlimited? I don't know. But it sounds like I'm gonna be I'm not firing ChatGPT. I would say that ChatGPT is getting a demotion. Um, Cursor is put on leave, and I don't know when my ChatGPT uh, plan, my ChatGPT plan, manage my subscription till April 27th. So I have another 16 days with my ChatGPT. I'm gonna click the manage button, and I'm gonna put my OpenAI. I'm gonna cancel my subscription. So I got till April 26th. So I got 2 weeks left on my subscription for ChatGPT. I'm going to join Gemini. Which type of ChatGPT subscription did you have? I had Plus. It's not useful enough. I have team still evaluating, unhappy, different problem, too expensive. Replan meets my needs. I don't use it. Model's not advanced. It's not advanced for my needs. There you go. All right, so I just quit my ChatGPT. I'm gonna get a Gemini subscription, and then I will see you later. So there we go. Let's keep it going, and thank you for joining me here on Space Between Ideas.